and welcome to our latest episode of House of League. House of League on the road. Myself, James Spells and Matt Shaw have made it out of the Manchester studio and we've come across the M62 to Alton Hall. Is that what we say it in these parts?
I'm not sure if health and safety's been done because we're behind a golf course and there's been some stray shots already. So if you're here for duck, that's how it
we'll
works
be ducking.
Golf course.
Yeah. I've hacked my way around this course. It's a lovely course, a lovely venue. We're here, obviously, for the Challenge Cup Media Day. We're expecting representatives from both teams later on. We're going to have a special Challenge Cup podcast later in the week with some of the guests that are going to be here today. But before we get to that usual podcast, it's me and thee talking about all things that are happening in Rugby League. And there's a bit for us to get into this week, but let's start with the Challenge Cup. First off, because it feels like there's some big important talking points there, most notably who was going to play. A lot of the chitter-chatter of the last few weeks has been George Williams is coming back. Is George Williams going to play? And I think the sneaking suspicion most have had is, yes, they're kind of saving him. We're actually expecting George Williams here today. So we will be asking him about that, which you'll have no doubt read about.
Spoiler, George Williams will not give us a definitive answer on whether he's playing or not.
No, yeah. There's a surprise. That's not much of a spoiler, but we will be asking him, and most of you will have read that by the time you see this. But the one that's come out of left field, maybe in the last 48 hours, maybe a little bit longer, is Mickey McIlorum going to play for Hull Kingston Rovers?
It was interesting, wasn't it? Because on Sky, Jenna Brooks just asked the question, quite blasé, to Willie, will Mickey McIlorum play or something on those? And he didn't deny it. He didn't deny it. So I think that says to me that, yeah, he might play.
Which would be, pretty astonishing because nobody's linked him with playing in this final at all. There's
been nothing until, and maybe I'm overreading that question, or maybe I'm overreading the answer. But it certainly felt, I don't know. I just watched it. I hadn't even realised until I watched it last night, and I thought, oh, what are we missing? So I can tell you what the first question I'll be asking to Willie Peters is today. It'd be a huge boost, wouldn't it? Huge boost. And they'd only need him to do 20 minutes, half an hour. Can he get through? Don't forget, he's a torn bicep. But how far? It's been a while. He did it in the Wigan game, which was 2 months ago.
Yeah.
They normally take 12 weeks, so he'd be ahead of schedule. And there's always a risk. Let's not forget that Rovers in the Challenge Cup semi-final a couple of years ago when they lost to Huddersfield 2022, they tried to get Kane Lynette through a bicep, didn't they? And it spectacularly failed.
There's a full history of people trying to get people in finals and semi-finals.
We have our Keith Senior moments here. Yeah. George Williams and Mickey McIlorum, and maybe even Lachlan Fitzgibbon. He got an injury at the weekend. He's been struggling. He's been playing wounded. I think he's been getting jabs in his ribs because he's broke a few ribs. He's got persistent shoulder issues. He went off at the weekend. The talk is now that he's a doubt. So you've got 3 pieces of injury news there that seemingly could go either way. The McIlorum one is the left field one, the serious left field one. The George Williams one is interesting. There's been some, you mentioned the chitter chat, there was some talk over the weekend that he might have had a setback over the weekend.
Because before the weekend, and maybe I'm reading into it, but Josh McAllister, who's not with us, we don't let him out the studio, keep him locked away. He spoke to Stefan Ratchford after the game on Friday night, and Ratchford was telling us on All Out Rugby League that, he understands if George is picked, and you kind of felt the frustration coming through with his words and the disappointment that he expected to not be playing this week, and which is where I read into the fact that George Williams would be playing. But if there's been a setback at this weekend...
The suggestion put to me is he might have had a setback over the weekend. So that'd be after the Ratchford interview.
Well, we're on the first floor here. We need to be looking out and see how he comes up the stairs. And if he's if he's limping on his way up,
even if he plays, he's not going to be 100% fit. With that, the injury he's done. People who know things better than I do in the medical department say he cannot be fully fit in 7 weeks.
But you still pick him anyway.
Absolutely, because he's too good a player not to.
Yes.
If you can get him on the field, and it's like the Cooper Cronk scenario in the NRL Grand Final a couple of years ago, isn't it? Where he basically just steered the ship from behind and didn't really do anything. But you'd have George Williams in to do that because he's that good.
On the other side, and then we'll move on from this, but do you take the same approach with McIlorum? because it's a different kind of role that he would be doing. Jez Litton has been superb since McIlorum's injury. The best compliment I can pay is to say they've not missed McIlorum at all. I'm not saying he's not a great asset to him. He changes the way that they'll approach the game if he plays a little bit.
I think the McIlorum one, you'd be more inclined to take a risk on because Jez Litton plays the majority of the game. He was playing the majority of the game when Mickey McIlorum was fit. He's playing the majority of the game now that he's not, with Bill Leyland playing the
60 minutes either way.
And Bill Leyland's coming on at the end of the game.
Yeah.
The difference is that Mickey McIlorum was starting games, but they still only played about 20 minutes, and Jez Litton did the majority. Can he get through 20 minutes? That's ultimately, if there's anything in this, that's a question that Willie Peters has to, and the medical staff probably more importantly, have to get through. Can he get through 20 minutes of rugby league? And if he can, and if they're confident he can, he'll play.
And if he can, they can rest him up and then say, look, you've done your job, Cup won, go heal again, we'll get you back for the playoffs.
Absolutely. So, and I always felt that might be the type of year for Mickey McIlorum. He started the season in the ugly weather and they played the attritional stuff, played the big games. I did think they'd use Bill Leyland, injury or no injury, quite a lot this year, Rovers, to get him ready, because I can't see Mickey McIlorum staying around next year. He said himself, he doesn't see himself going around next year. So they have to start blooding Bill Leyland. But in a Challenge Cup final, you play Mickey McIlorum all day long if you can get him on the field.
There'll be more Super League talk later on in the programme, but because it's Challenge Cup final week, and we've touched on that a little bit there, I want to take this opportunity to just discuss International Rugby League for a minute and just to talk to you about England on the back of an interview again on our All Out Rugby League that Ryan Hall did with our very own Dave Craven, speaking about his chances of maybe getting a call up for the Ashes at the end of the season. And he said, listen, I've got down. He talked about the fact Matty Ashton's injured, and he said, I understand there's other people ahead of me, but all I can do is keep playing. And he's basically saying, if Sean Wayne wants me, I'm here. You've got Dom Young, you've got Liam Marshall, you've got, speaking of Cat, you've got Joe Burgess, you've got Tom Davis, you've got Tom Johnston, you've got Ash Hanlon. There's so many people that could play. Does Ryan Hall get a look in the way he's playing this season for Leeds Rhinos?
I don't know what Sean Wayne's thinking, but I would pick Ryan Hall.
Against the Australians for the experience, for the ball carrying ability
for exactly that. Yeah. It's not so much the experience. I think against the Australians, they, from a skill perspective and athletically, are superior to our outside backs as a general rule and have been for many a year. So you need to try and match that as well as you can. What I think England need from the wingers is a play one ball carrier to get the set up and running to generate some ruck speed. Liam Marshall's brilliant, but Abbas Miski takes on that role. Yeah. Marshall's done a good job while Miski's not played, but he's not a play one specialist, I would say.
He's not built for that in the way Ryan Hall is specifically built for that.
So you're looking at, for me, the two that spring to mind are Ryan Hall and Tom Davis, who take it on at the respective clubs.
Yeah.
So Tom Davis, I don't think is a bad shout, but Ryan Hall and that extra size and just the athletic ability, I'd be inclined to go Ryan Hall. I really would.
While we're discussing it, I'm quite interested. What you think would be your starting 13 as things stand?
I'll give you my 17 right now.
Even better. I mean, why take 13 when we can get 17?
So Wellesby at fullback.
Right, okay.
My wingers would be Ryan Hall. The other wing, at the minute, going on form, I'd go Joe Burgess. Yep. Joe Burgess having a tremendous season. I'd have Wardle and Farnworth in the centres. I am very, very tempted, and one of my difficulties is leaving Mark Percival out again for similar reasons, the physical attributes, but I just don't see how you can keep Wardle or Farnworth out. The halves, Harry Smith definitely plays for me because of the long kicking game. There's Mikey Lewis and George Williams, but I think Harry Smith brings something different to those two, and the combination works better with Harry Smith. One of Williams or Lewis,
it's going to be Williams, isn't it? He's Sean's captain.
It will be Williams, and I think I'd go Williams because I think Mikey Lewis can play at 9, so you have him in the 14 role. My starting props, I would go with Matty Lees. And who would move a starting prop? Be Luke Thompson. My hooker would be Brad O'Neill. My back rowers, definitely Junior and Semba. One of Matty Nicholson or Kai Pearce-Paul. I think I'd go Matty Nicholson. And my starting 13 would be Victor Radley.
Right, okay.
And then my bench would be Mikey Lewis, Mike McMeekan, Morgan Smithies, and I know I'm missing someone, and that's going to really annoy me. Mike McMeekan, Morgan Smithies, Mikey Lewis, and...
Yeah, another prop.
Morgan Knowles.
Okay.
That'd be my 17.
Yeah. Decent side.
Feel free for everyone to put in the comments who they'd pick.
I know Sean Wayne's listening, so he's probably going to be ringing you up to game.
Well, that'll be He'll be asking who leaked his team news, probably.
No, definitely feel free to leave a comment and tell Matt how wrong he's got it. The great thing about, especially international rugby league and international sport, is everybody's got their opinions and we'll see things differently. I think you're right in the Mikey Lewis is you can't leave the man of steel out, and we're seeing again how important he is this season. We saw what he did against St Helens on Friday night. That bench role can suit him, and I think could work well for England because he's got a physicality about him as well. Yeah,
I would be a little bit worried him defended in the middle at 9. He's got much better defensively, but the big old boy is the Aussies. But he's a match winner, isn't he? He can win you a match.
I just want to see him winding some of them up.
Yeah, there's that as well.
Basically.
Well, let's pick Jake Connor.
Let's get Jake Connor and Mikey Lewis in the
Connor's
same
the
team.
One, right? Jake Connor's the one. He's leading Man of Steel.
Where does he fit in that team?
By the way, there is absolutely no way he plays because Sean Wayne hasn't picked him since he's not. But
he's not going to make the squad, is he?
No, I don't see. He's playing at 6. He's not going to get in front of Williams or Lewis or Smith. So, but I think he should be at least discussed because you can't get away from the fact he's having an excellent season.
Should he make the squad in terms of that utility value? He's playing at 6. He can play full back. He can play. I was just going to say he can play centre. I mean, if we've done it before, you could stick him on the wing if there's an injury. If
Blake Hoskin can play on the wing for England, Jake Connor can.
Yes. Should he be in the squad for that utility value?
I'd be tempted to.
Because you never know in a full Ashes series, injuries. I don't know. We'll see. In terms of that side, just to wrap up, you think that's got a good chance? I mean, we don't know what side the Aussies going to put out, but we know it's going to be pretty good.
I do. I think England have got a chance of winning the series, and I know people are going to laugh at that. I genuinely do. We said they won't beat. Well, we didn't. A lot of people said, they won't beat the Tongans. They won't beat the Samoans. They whitewashed them both. Yes, the Aussies are on a different level, and I completely accept that they are way better than those two nations. But I think they've got a chance. I think they can definitely, absolutely compete.
Let's stay on the Australian theme. I'm just going to throw this one out left field at you. We did a story last week about Nathan Cleary being linked to the Wallabies and a move to Rugby Union. Do you think England are going to line up against him?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't think he's going to be gone by the end of the season?
I think he'll do. I'm not sure he'll leave anyway. There's been a lot of Nathan Cleary's going to do this and that, and never does. Maybe it's me just hoping don't go because he's the greatest player in our game at the minute, isn't he? He'll be around.
Let's hope so. I mean, the good thing is that the state of the NRL and it reaffirmed itself with them Origin figures last week. Was it 3.6 million, I think, viewers in Australia? Reaffirmed it as the number one sport in Australia. It's not like maybe 10 years ago where Australian Rugby League was really fighting to get some traction against the AFL and against Aussie Rugby Union. It's now firmly the number one sport.
They've done an awesome job since COVID, haven't they? They've absolutely taken over since COVID.
Since Peter V'landys came in and really
done an awesome
grabbed
job.
it. Yeah, it's been terrific. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about Salford, which I know we seem to do every week. Listen, the players got paid. Yeah. They got paid late, but they got paid in time that the game went ahead and everybody played. It feels like we're just going to be in this vicious circle and same again. But a little bit more development this week when it came out. You did the story that it looks like the owners are sticking, or the prospective owners still don't have control, are sticking around regardless. And even though the stadium now looks like it's not on the cards because the relationship with the council's fallen down, the owners are not planning on going anywhere, which is great news for Salford at the minute, that it looks like at least there's something coming down the track.
There's two questions that we need answers to make sense of this Salford situation. The first is, so the players got paid, but it wasn't by the club themselves. It came from We Do Finance.
Yeah.
And the players were told that it couldn't go into the Salford accounts to pay them because it'd be frozen. We know there's a HMRC bill and everything like that. Okay. What are they getting the money based off? Because these companies, they're not just charities. They don't give the money and go, oh, there you go, yeah, we'll sort it out later. They need some guarantee that they need some protection, they're going to get the money back.
Yeah.
And more, right? So that's the first question. With the stadium deal now gone, what are they getting that based off? How are they securing these deals?
Funds? Yes.
Right, that's the first question.
And also, why are they sticking around when they've said before that they weren't particularly interested in the rugby club?
That's the second one. And from people who know them that I speak to, and they are hard, they're hard people to get hold of, there is they do feel an obligation to try and sort the mess out. And credit where it's due, they are still around. Where we all thought they'd disappear, let's be honest, once the stadium deal collapsed, we thought they'd disappear, didn't we? Right, so that's the second question, but the second pressing question for me is this. So we did the story about the bridging loan, looking for a bridging loan, and the logic is the owners take on the bridging loan, they use it to clear the debts, and then it was explained to me that the funding, there's some funding still from investors that will go towards the club. Once it's debt-free, that's what they have to do to get that funding. Once it's debt-free, they get the funding, they pay the bridging loan off. Right, okay, then the club's debt-free, they're cleared, financially. That all logically makes sense. But the question is this. The investors aren't going to do it. They're not just going to put the money in for no reason. There has to be a return on investment for them. How on earth do you get a return on investment out of Salford without the stadium?
It's a good question. I mean, there's, with no disrespect, there's better run clubs that are struggling with that very question.
There is something we are missing in this Salford story, and I'm not sure what it is. But I think if you had the answers to those two questions, it would make a lot more sense. But it is a mystery. It's a mystery that everyone is scratching their heads on. But in my opinion, there has to be something we are missing at the minute, and I'm hell-bent on making sure that come the end of the week and by the next podcast I have those answers.
Well, as always, we will try and fill in as best we can that jigsaw puzzle for you. One last one, I should have maybe done this coming out of the England talk. Sean Wayne to Catalan we discussed last week, and we said, listen, he'd be interested. It feels like, I don't know, it's gone quiet on Catalan. They need to start reaching out to somebody because nilled for the third game in a row, Hull FC going out there, taking nothing away from Hull FC, who were very good with some key players missing. But Catalan, dreadful again. They need some direction. They need it quickly. They feel like they need somebody like Sean Wayne, but they need to start making a move on somebody, don't they?
If they didn't ring Sean Wayne yesterday, they should be ringing him in the next minute and begging him, asking what he wants, because they're a shambles. And I thought John Wilkins said it, and it was blunt, and it was to the point. It was a bit brutal. Some of them just didn't look like they were bothered.
No,
they didn't. The effort. Now, I don't think they're fit enough as a group. I've seen them enough times where they seem to run out of steam at the end, and that's happened too often. So I think there's a fitness issue, which might make it look like they're not bothered. But some of the last four performances have been so poor, and that's been nice, isn't it? They've been diabolical, frankly. They need someone in. We said last week Sean Wayne would be a really good fit for them. It seems to me now they just need to get that. They need to get that sorted now rather than at the end of the season.
Definitely. Let's wait and see what happens. Do you know, I've just noticed probably by default more than any sort of planning, but we seem to have, we're a bit like Ant and Dec. I'm always on the right, you're always on the left, or depending on people who are watching this on YouTube, I'm on the left of the screen, you're always on the right.
Oh, weird ending to the show.
I don't know, but just as we were talking, I felt like I only ever see one side of, is this your best side? Because it's the only side I ever see.
Wrap up. What are you doing?
Right, thanks for being with us, everybody. As I said, we will be back later in the week with a Challenge Cup final special. Until then, thanks.